And Dan, we're 6 starts into the Drake Maye era, and it seems to me that the consensus between opposing teams and the players in this Patriots locker room is that they believe he's going to be a stud for years to come.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting after the loss to the Rams, Joe, and good morning. I thought it was interesting that Sean McVay, the coach of the Rams, has been at it now for a while. Of course, went at it with Bill Belichick in the Super Bowl in 2019 and has come a long way since then, considered one of the best in the game, especially with an offensive mind. He had wonderful things to say about Drake Maye and the way that he saw the field, the way that he could fit tight windows, just a lot of the characteristics you're looking for in a good quarterback. And everyone around this team continues to say the same things. The growth that we've seen in only 6 starts is pretty impressive. And even Drake Maye spoke about it yesterday when I asked him about, do you kind of get it a little bit more now when the NFL is certainly complicated, but do you understand what you're doing a little bit more? And he kind of went on that thing saying, football is simple, people are complicated. And kind of that's how he looks at it with how they're kind of, what happens with the game of football. And I think what he meant to say was basically at the end of the day, it's still going out and throwing the ball around and just making sure you do it in the proper way. So I think he's got a good mind. I think we've seen the way he runs. We see the way he runs upward and can see the field. There's a lot to like about this kid, and I think it's just one of those things where now you just got to get everything else around him. But it looks like, again, you don't know from year to year, but it looks like they've found their franchise quarterback for years to come.
Yeah, we saw a compliment from Sean McVay, as you mentioned. Matthew Stafford also complimented Drake Maye after that game. And I thought it was interesting, too, Dan, that Hunter Henry brought up Justin Herbert. So you're getting it really from all different places about what everybody feels about this guy 6 starts in. I think the next question that a lot of people have on their mind is, what is next in terms of the Patriots building around this guy? And there's a lot that needs to be done to get this team to be a contender. But Dan, what do you think is the next thing, the A1 thing that this team needs to do going into the draft next year to make Drake Maye's life a little bit easier?
Well, it's to get a number one weapon, right? That's kind of the way I look at it. You need that number one wide receiver to go out and make plays, take pressure off the rest of the receiving core, and give Drake Maye target after target. It's hard to find, and sometimes it's hard to keep because we see how disgruntled some of the star wide receivers can be in the game. So you hope that you get it through the draft, and some of the top picks in the draft, hopefully one blossoms into that number one kind of guy. Now, the other position, to me, that they need to fill is an offensive tackle. But I think, looking at the pre-draft board for 2025, every time I see some of the top offensive linemen described, the tackles especially, they're described as could be a tackle in the NFL, but might be more for an interior position like guard or center, which is not what you want to see because typically that franchise tackle that you're able to get in the draft is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, somewhere in the top 5. And then he's there for the next 10 to 15 years as an anchor on that left side, the blind side of a quarterback when he backs up. You don't want him to get hit in the back. Most teams have them. The good teams have them. But it doesn't look like there's one in this draft. So maybe it's a draft-centric wide receiver group, and then you got to go out in free agency or trade and find a number one tackle. But that's hard to come up with, too. So those are the 3 keys in building a franchise, right? It's a quarterback coach league for one. Its secondary is a number one wideout and then a number one tackle. They need those 2 to go along with Drake Maye.
And hopefully the Patriots can hit on a wide receiver or 2. This rookie class not looking great, at least so far through 11 games. And while Drake Maye, obviously, Dan, has a lot to prove still, even though he's played well through 6 games, the same can obviously be said about head coach Jerod Mayo. And it's a little bit different when you talk about Drake Maye and Jerod Mayo when it comes to this Patriots fan base. There's so much optimism about Drake Maye, and I think the jury is still out, especially with the fan base with Jerod Mayo as head coach. And there were a lot of talks about his coaching decisions in that Rams game. What has he said about his own performance so far this season? And did he go back and think about some of those decisions in that game against the Rams and maybe say we could have done things differently?
Yeah, he's very forthcoming in that stuff, Joe, when it comes to the media. And I think the easiest thing to do in sports is to second guess a coach or manager, right? So I think we're going along with him as he makes decisions, and I think the media is following along as he makes decisions too in certain situations. There was one where he settled for a field goal, and I had my binoculars on the bench, and it just seemed everybody was ho-hum as opposed to the energy they showed after a Kendrick Bourne touchdown when you kind of knew the way Matthew Stafford was playing that you were going to need more than field goals. And I think those are some of the things that he's learning, that he's getting, he's trying to grow as, and he's admitted that too. He said, "Hey, I'm a rookie head coach, so I'm learning from every decision that I make and don't make when it comes to how to run a football team." So I think it's growing pains for a rookie quarterback, and it's growing pains for a rookie head coach. Now the question is, will he grow up enough? Will he have those decisions where Robert Kraft and Jonathan Kraft feel that he's fine doing that and he can handle himself? But it's always a big question, Joe. And in today's day and age, a lot of it is, for a coach, it's two-part. Can you motivate the young players? Can you be on their same wavelength? And then the other part, when it comes to X's and O's, can you make the right decision? So it's not an easy find, but I think Jerod Mayo's learning as he goes, and we'll see in the sum total when all is said and done what he has. But I would like to see a game, right, where the Patriots are going toe-to-toe, let's say it's with the Dolphins this week, and down the stretch you're following along and in total agreement with the decisions that he's making as he makes them. It's not easy because it happens in every NFL city now, but I would like to see a game like that where you're like, yeah, I understand. Yes, I understand. Yes, good for him. And they pull out a win. That would be the best thing that we could see tangibly as a fan as you watch the game.
Asking a lot of the fan base to be in lockstep mind-wise with a head coach, considering how passionate fans can certainly be about the game, especially here. Dan, Cole Strange, he returned to practice yesterday, and he obviously has not been on the field in a game since tearing a tendon in his left knee against Kansas City last December. What's the latest on his status?
Well, took to the practice field for the first time yesterday. We'll do it again today. He's scheduled to speak to us today before practice, so I'm curious to see what he has to say. And again, I think it's different with every player. Christian Barmore was in there for some limited snaps on Sunday after having the blood clot issue. And it depends on how far they've come physically. It depends on how far Cole Strange has been able to come physically, what he's been able to do, how he responds to contact, how he responds to that first day back in practice and pads. They weren't in pads yesterday, but just getting back on the practice field. And then maybe we see him in some limited role. And I also thought it was interesting for Darian Lowe. Did not practice yesterday. He's dealing with a sore shoulder. So maybe, again, a juggling of that line happens again, or maybe Michael Wenu gets bumped out to tackle, Michael Jordan. So it's just like they have a lot of combinations they can work with now. So maybe Cole Strange gets into the mix, at least on Sunday. But if not, then it's good to see him back practicing. And then, maybe next week he gets into a full game and what have you. So it's good to get some reinforcements back. That's a good thing for this team.
Yeah, the Patriots offense could certainly use some more reinforcements on that offensive line, and especially getting somebody like Cole Strange. Now, Kendrick Bourne, talking about guys that came back from an injury. Last year, he obviously got hurt against the Dolphins in Miami. And, I thought his comments, Dan, this week have been pretty interesting. He said on the record, "I love this place. I have a real soft spot for New England." How important has he become to the Patriots locker room as an elder statesman and a guy that's been in the league now for a pretty long time?
Well, he's a leader, Joe, and there aren't many veteran leaders left on this team. I was trying to do a story this week on the Patriots' troubles in Miami, where they've lost 4 straight, 6 of 7, 9 of 11. And there aren't that many guys on this team that have been a part of those losses, right? It's just there's been such a big turnover. I think if you look at it, Dietrich Wise, John Jones, they're among the players that have been here through some of them. Jones is 2-6 in his 8 meetings with the Dolphins down in Miami. But a guy like Kendrick Bourne, you need leadership now. You need veteran leadership. You need the message to be passed along. And sometimes it can't always be from the injured players. That's the problem they've had with Juwan Bentley and others getting hurt this year, captain seemingly going down. So I think he's a very important voice. And he's a very important voice for the rookies that have struggled in the wide receiver room, most notably Javon Baker, as well as Jalen Polk. He's constantly on them, say, listen, I didn't get any snaps the week before. This week I came back, was our leading receiver. That's life in the NFL. You still got to go out and practice like you're playing. You still got to be ready on the bench. You still got to be alert and into the game. So I think those are part of the things that they're looking for from Kendrick Bourne to talk about with those players in the receiving room. And his energy is infectious. It's hard not to smile when you're around Kendrick Bourne, getting the answers, getting the energy, and just a guy that's very happy to be playing the game again after sitting a year with that knee injury, and now back on the football field. So it's refreshing to be around him. And I think the Patriots want more players like that on their team, not less.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys that does have big game experience under his belt, which isn't a lot of guys on this Patriots roster. He, of course, played in the Super Bowl with the San Francisco 49ers. Dan, before we let you go, this is a big day in Boston sports because the Celtics are going to be heading to the White House to be honored, of course, for winning the championship last year. You've had a chance to go to the White House 9 times in your illustrious reporting career. What is your favorite White House moment among the 9 times that you went?
You're going to laugh at this one, Joe. When the Bruins went, it was a little less casual with Barack Obama in the White House, where the Bruins did their availability in the Roosevelt Room. They were upstairs in the East Wing, and so it was more inside. The Patriots and the Red Sox, they've all been outside, but we were able to go inside. We were walking from, I think, the East Room to the bottom room, the Roosevelt Room, to do some interviews with Patrice Bergeron and some other players. And lo and behold, I come around the corner, and there are Bo and Sonny, the Portuguese water dogs of Barack Obama. And I stopped, and I started talking to the trainers, and I said, listen, we have a Portuguese water dog at home. Aren't they the coolest dogs? And they were like, yes, come over. You can say hi to them. I petted them. I talked to them. So that was my highlight of being in the White House, covering these teams. And I took a selfie with the 2 dogs, sent them to my wife and daughter and son. That's awesome. That's like the greatest picture ever. Not like, let alone the Red Sox or the president or anybody like that. That was my coolest moment. And also just being on the White House lawn and being able to say, live from the White House with the Boston Red Sox, I'm Dan Roche, WBZ Sports, which is pretty cool. It sounds corny. And one of the guys from one of the networks turned to me after I said that, because I smiled and I said, that was so awesome to say on the air. He said, that gets very old after a few days. And I'm like, really, buddy? You're going to try to ruin my moment right here? I won't say that when you walk into Fenway Park and you're like, this place is awesome. So, but I've had a lot of fun in covering the teams over the years at the White House. It's a great thing. It's a great honor for them. Just to be in the White House, to feel the power of the presidency, it'll be a special moment for the Celtics and company today.
And you and I were discussing this before we hopped on, and I was going to throw this question your way. And here I was thinking you were going to tell me, seeing David Ortiz do the selfie, or, just being in the White House with Tom Brady and the Patriots. No, you go with Barack Obama's dog. So you're throwing a curveball at me, and I love it. I love it. Perfect memory. Thanks for sharing that with us, Dan. This should be fun for the Celtics to get an opportunity to go to the White House. And it shows, too, to the rest of the country, which they obviously do, that Boston sports are back on the map.
Yes, which is great. And again, I think you look at the 2 differences today, right? You see the joy of winning a championship and what it means, and the Celtics being honored, and then the pressure of winning a championship in this city as Jim Montgomery no longer coaching the Boston Bruins after the fabulous record he put together, and Joe Sacco taking over the team. So it kind of shows you on this day just how fine a line it is between winning a championship and being out of a job.
Yeah, and in Boston sports, there's always so much to talk about, too. You have the Red Sox and what they may do in free agency. Patriots obviously rebuilding with Drake Maye, but getting a chance to watch him game in, game out has been so much fun to watch. And we look forward to continuing to see that development. Dan Roche.
Yeah, don't tell anybody how much fun we have, okay?
We'll try to keep it quiet.
Dan
Roche, the dog lover, the White House visitor. Thank you so much for the time, Dan. Appreciate it as always.
Always a pleasure, Joe.